Our emeritus, longest-standing pastor, our Dr. Ronnie Jones, has cooked up some victuals to feed us this morning. So without further ado, let us welcome our Dr. Ronnie.
Well, good morning, everybody. It sounds as though you all came to church this morning. I can't stop praising his name. You know, oftentimes I'm at home watching, and Reverend Lisa will say, well, there's no need for me to talk now because you guys have had service. So should we call the ushers and take our offering or what? It is indeed a good day. This is a day that God has made for all of us, and you are rejoicing and you are happy already, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Because you know what it shows? It demonstrates that this place is filled with resurrected souls. And that is the theme for this month, a resurrected soul, as we march towards Easter, that wonderful grand day where we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. You know, it was Jesus one day, the master teacher, that said, I am the resurrection and the life. And if a man believeth in me, though he be dead, yet shall he live. Isn't that such a wonderful thing? And in that reference, I don't think he was referring to a physical death, but I think he's referring to a spiritual death, one that is dying from disbelief and a lack of understanding. But at a time when you can embrace the reality of the Christ, the idea of God within man, so shall you live, and that life shall be abundantly. And today I want to come and I want to ask the question to all of you, and that is this: who do men say I am? And I want you to just ponder that. Who do men say I am? And in the story, you know, Jesus was at the coast of Caesarea, and he asked his disciples, saying unto each of them, who do men say that the Son of Man am? And they said unto him, well, some say that thou art John the Baptist. Some say Elijah. Others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And he said to them, but who do you say that I am? And I want you just for a moment to kind of put yourself in the place of those disciples and just begin to reimagine what was going on in this instance. And I would imagine as he is asking them this question, they begin to ponder among themselves and ask the question among. And they said, some say that you are a miracle worker. You know, we were there the day when you were at the synagogue, and one of the rulers, Jairus, came out, and he asked that if you would come and pray for his daughter, who was near death. And he asked that if you would come and lay hands on her that she might be healed. So Jesus asked them to take him to her. But however, on the way to Jairus' house, they were just met with a throng of people. And folk were pushing and they were tussling and they were trying to get next to him. But in the midst of all of these folk, there was one woman who had been sick for a very long time. And they said she had exhausted all of her resources trying to find a cure. She had went to every doctor, every soothsayer, every place possible trying to find some relief. But all of a sudden she heard that Jesus was coming to town. And so she said within herself that if I could just make a connection, if I could just touch the clothing that he is wearing, because I feel that his body is just so energized, that there is healing essence in the very garment that he has on. if I'm able just to reach out and to touch that garment, that I will be made whole. So the writer said that she pressed away. She pushed her way through the crowds, and she got close enough to reach out and to touch. And she made connection. And not only did she make connection, but in making connection, she received her healing. And as the energy surged from his being, the writer said that likewise, Jesus felt the energy going forth from him and asked, "Who touched me?" And in that moment, they began to claim he is a miracle worker. But while they were calling on him to be a miracle worker, all of a sudden, Jairus reappeared. And he said, "You know, my daughter has died." So upon hearing this, Jesus said, "Take me to her." So they took him to where she was laying. And as he came into the room where she was at, there was just an awful lot of weeping and crying and carrying on. And so what did he do? He knelt down beside her and he said to everyone, "She is not dead, but she is just asleep." And he took by her hand and spoke the word of life into her understanding and told her to awaken. And she got up. And once again, they began to call him a miracle worker. Who do you say that I am? And others said, "Well, you know, there was that time that we were with you in the desert. And there were so many people who came at that time because they wanted to hear you preach. They came out of all the cities and the towns, and it was just such a large gathering. And as they all got there and they sat down and you began to teach them, and as you began to teach and they became so enthralled with what you were saying, the day became spent. And all of a sudden, the day was far and it was gone. And everyone that was there were hungry and they were thirsty. And we heard you when you turned to the disciples and you said to feed them. And we said, well, listen, the only thing that we have is a few little loaves of bread and a few little fishes. And so he told everyone just to sit down. And as they sat down, he said, bring me the loaves and bring me the fish. And as he took them, he just lifted them up and gave thanks, and he blessed it. And after he blessed it, he gave it to the disciples and said, now feed them. And as they went forth, and they were able to feed the multitude. And after they were fed, they said, he's a way maker. Here he fed a multitude with just a little loaves and a few little fishes. The blessing just caused a multitude to be fed. And then they said, well, you know, likewise, we were with you at that time when we boarded the ship. And we went to the other side of Bethsaida with you. And while at sea, the storm began to rise, and the ship was caught up in the midst of this storm. And while we were rowing frantically just to keep the boat afloat, you got up and you stepped out on the water and began to walk as one standing on the beach with the waves splashing up against their feet. And as they saw that, they began to call out and say, you are a strong tower. That here you can stand in the midst of the storm and allow all kinds of things to come against you, but you would stand there and stand strong. And then they said, well, also, there were many of us who were there at that time when you were in Jerusalem. And there in Jerusalem, you stood there at the pool of Bethesda. And there were so many physically challenged individuals there. And here you were confronted by a 38-year-old crippled man. And he had been there for a very long time. But it was believed that this pool contained a healing essence. And so you walked up to this man and you asked him if he believed that he could receive a healing. And he answered and said that he had no one to assist him to get down into these healing waters. And what did you do? But you just took him by his hand and said to him to take up his bed and walk. And the man got up, and as he began to walk, and as the multitude looked out about you, they began to cry out, Jehovah Jireh. They begin to say that you are a healer, that you are a strong deliverer, that you begin to do all of these great and wonderful things. And Jesus, listening to it, and he said, yes, that's okay. That's what everyone else is saying. But Peter, tell me, you've been here for a long time. You have seen it all. You looked at it firsthand. Tell me, what do you say? And Simon Peter answered, and he said unto him, listen, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. And I have been a part of it all. But listen, I want to be real clear that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's who I say that thou art. And Jesus turned to him and said, Simon Bar-Jonah, oh, thou art indeed blessed, because what you're saying to me was not revealed to you by flesh and blood. In other words, you didn't hear this from the masses. No one came up and told you this in your ear. You didn't read it written anywhere. But down in the core of your own being, where the Spirit speaks alive to those who will turn within, you heard the Spirit say that thou art the Christ, the real Son of the living God, the one that is filled with power and might and majesty. And Jesus said, listen, it is because of that knowing that upon this rock I will build my church. And he was not referring to that part of real estate. He was not talking about the dirt in which they were standing. He was referring to that kind of understanding, that level of consciousness, when one is a resurrected soul, that they can realize that the Spirit is speaking from the depth of their being, giving us the reality of truth. He said that level of consciousness is which I will build my church. And he said, in building that church, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. In other words, when you reach that level of consciousness, when you are clear in that kind of understanding, that nothing that comes against you shall ever prosper, because then you are filled with the power of the Spirit. That kind of understanding will build a church. But when you arrive at that place, he said, this is the gift that I will give you. I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And therefore, whatsoever thing thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thing thou shalt loose on earth shall indeed be loosed in heaven. Imagine that. Being given that kind of power. But that kind of power has been given to everyone. It's just that all of us are not willing to accept it. See, for so many of us, we still live from this place of superstition. We are so afraid to see Jesus as the great example. We always want to see him as the great exception. But his life was about being an example to each of us. Here, man came into the world just like every other man, but evolved into the Christ, a place where one will understand that the input of God is alive within man. And that's why he said that word, who say I am. He was teaching us the power of the I am. See, we don't understand that. that everything that follows that I am is a demonstration of power. We go all the way back when that revelation was given to Moses in the very beginning. When he went up into the mountaintop, he went up into a place of higher understanding. And he said unto the Spirit of God that was speaking to him at that moment, who shall I say sent me? And the Spirit said, I am that I am. But I need you to understand this, Moses, so that you can be clear. Because the place where you are standing is sacred. The place that you are standing is holy. So I need for you to take off your shoes in this moment. Now, what was he talking about here? See, he was referring to our feet is our understanding. And at that time, Moses' feet were in a holy place. And he said, so take off your shoes. In other words, anything that is covering your understanding, take it off. Because it's now allowing the reality of spiritual truth to enter in. But if you take it off, you remove the filter. If you take it off, you remove the obstacle. If you take it off, you remove the barrier that is denying the presence of God to come in and to speak with you. So what did Moses do? He took off his shoes because he didn't want anything to get in the way of his understanding. What say you? What say you? See, Jesus recognized in this instant Peter as a resurrected soul, one that had a clear understanding of the I am presence, a clear understanding of the Christ, the Son of God within man. Now, it's clear for everyone to receive this level of understanding. But Jesus gave another key that opens the door of this for each of us. He said, listen, unless a man is born again, he cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now, he was not talking about a physical birth, but he was talking about a transformation of mind. Unless there is a transformation in your understanding, you cannot enter in. See, when your understanding is transformed, everything about your experience becomes transformed. And when you find that you are still constantly battling and it seems as though there is no relief coming on any hand, and you're still saying, woe is me, and you're still thinking that you are a victim as opposed to a victor, you have not been born again. See, there are those that are born of water, and that is in a physical situation, and that's where they remain. But then there are those that are born of the Spirit, and that is that they enter into a new understanding of the reality of their own life and understanding. And that's the place where we are today. That's how we're able to call ourselves a resurrected soul, that we have gone through this transformation, that we are indeed joint heirs as Jesus Christ. And how do we know? So many other writers bear witness to the same thing. And I like to agree with the one in 1 John who says this, behold, what manner of love is this that the Father has bestowed upon us, that he would call us the sons of God. What manner of love is this? What kind of understanding is this? What kind of gift is this? That God himself would lay claim that we are the sons of God. Then he goes on to say, beloved, now we are the sons of God. And though it not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he appears, we shall be like him. And there is no other scripture, I think, that gives folks so much confusion than that. Because so many think that there is going to be Jesus once again in the flesh visiting them, and they are going to be like him. It's the idea of the Christ. And when we evolve to that place in our understanding, he has reappeared again. And in that appearance, we see that we are like him. But see, we're not like him because he spoke with confidence and he acted without fear. Who in this place would go up to a lame man and take him by the hand and say, do you believe that you can be healed? Rather than to look at one that's lame and have pity on him and say, I just feel so sorry for them. Who would take a meager amount of food and realize that they have the power to bless it? And that is to look away from the appearance and stop gazing upon something that is so limited. But look beyond that and see the reality of spirit and the ability to bless and multiply your own good. You know, so often when we look around us in our own circumstances and the places where we live and so forth, and oftentimes become dismayed because we think that we don't have enough. We're confused because we think that we are living in the midst of lack. We're so caught up in the news when they're saying that even though they're saying that we're living in a great economy, everything is just so high, we can't afford this and we can't afford that. Rents are just too high. The cost of eggs are just too high. And who in here has not bought a dozen? We get caught up in what someone else is saying rather than to get caught up in what it is that we are hearing from within. At some point, someone is going to say, greater is he that is within me. Greater is this vision that God has instilled within me. And I'm able to see beyond what's in front of me and see the reality of spiritual power that is invested within me. See, when we can say that, but not only say that, but believe that, then we become a resurrected soul. This morning, I want you to speak about your power. I want you to speak about your resurrections. So I brought in some affirmations that I want you to speak and speak life into. I want you to say these things to yourself, and I want you to say them aloud. And I'm inviting everyone that's here this morning to do that, and those of you who are watching on Zoom, likewise. So say this, if you will. God has made me a waymaker.
God has made me a waymaker.
God has made me a miracle worker.
God has made me a miracle worker.
God has made me a strong tower.
God has made me a strong tower.
God has made me a healer.
God has made me a healer.
The energy of Jehovah Jireh is all around me. Now, words have power. And words believed in have superpower. And words that are believed in, that are accompanied by understanding, have unlimited power. So when you reflect upon what you've just spoken, God has made you a way maker. You should move forth out of this place this morning believing that every way is being made for you. And that if there is any seeming barrier that is in your way, it's just something for you to test your understanding against. Because the only power it has is that which you give it. The only way it stops you is that you allow it to stop you. The only way things in life hold you back is that you allow them to hold you back. You have to leave this place this moment understanding that you are indeed powerful. Yes. Now, Jesus said to Peter in that instance, he said, listen, here are the keys that I'm going to give you. When you understand that it is the Christ within you that is operating, it is the Spirit of God within you that is giving you direction. And that spirit is always empowering. He said, listen, I'm giving you these keys that what you are able to bind and you are able to loose. So I want us this morning to have an experience of binding and loosing. So I want everyone here and in Zoom land to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. And in doing this, you need to forget who is next to you, because what's going on within you is only your business. And understand that right where you are, God is. Now, with your eyes closed, all you see is a blank screen. All you see is darkness with your eyes closed. Because with your eyes closed, your physical eye is still looking. But it cannot see anything because the lenses are shut. So I want you now to begin to look through your spiritual lens. And the way we look through our spiritual lens is that we look through our gift of imagination. Now, whatsoever thing you wish to bind, and that, what I mean is to take dominion over, to capture, to take charge. Whatever the thing is that you want to draw into your experience, I need for you to see it. See it in your imagination. And as you see it, dare yourself to claim it, to own it, to believe that it's yours. Because into this seeming void, using the gift of your imagination, which is the power of the Spirit operating through you, I want you to speak into your circumstance greater good. And don't get caught up on how it can come or to whom it needs to come through. Understand that you are in charge, that the anointing is on you, that the Spirit is operating through you. And this is your moment to speak it. Now, in keeping with your eyes closed, likewise, think about the thing that you wish to loose, to let go of. Whatever it might be, loose it. Let it go. Consciously let it go. Tell it don't belong to you. Tell it has no power over you. Tell it to get behind you. Tell it to be dissolved. Let it know that you are greater than it. Let it go. And know that when you speak this word of loose and letting go, that it no longer has an attachment to you or anything that is associated with you. You will leave out of this moment redeemed. As you call it by its name, call it by its title, know then that it's gone because you demanded it to be so. Now just exhale as you open your eyes. See, beloved, now you are the sons of God. The word sons is gender neutral. It means everybody. You are a resurrected soul. More importantly, you are the glory of God manifest as that which you call yourself. Now, I want you to know that. You are the glory of God manifest as that which you call yourself. No, I need for you to say that. Say, I am the glory of God, made manifest, as that which I call myself. Let's say that once again. I am the glory of God, made manifest, as that which I call myself. Now, on the third time, which is the charm, I want you to put your name at the end of that. For instance, I am the glory of God made manifest as that which I call Ronnie Jones. Okay? So you go out of here. Don't say myself. I want you to say your name. So let's say that once again. I am the glory of God, made manifest, as that which I call miracle worker, waymaker, strong tower. That's what you are. Energy of Jehovah Jireh all around you. I want you to reflect back to at the beginning of today's lesson. That woman that had that issue, how she is so much like so many of us. Her situation is so much like ours. But the difference is that even though she was surrounded by the ideas of others, even though she was surrounded by the opinions of others, even though she was hearing words outside of herself, be they coming from her spouse, from her children, from her neighbors, from her church members, she pressed her way through it all because she believed that if she made connection, that's all she needed to do was to make connection. That in making connection, she would indeed be made whole. You know, Dr. Ernest Holmes writes in The Science of Mind, he says, it is our belief that sets the limit of our demonstration of a principle which is without limits, and it is ready to fill everything because it is infinite. It is our beliefs that limits everything or allows greater things into our circumstance. Leave here this morning as the resurrected soul that I know that you are. Peace and blessings to all of you today. Bless you all.
Hey, that was a game changer. That was a game changer. We have the keys. Let's unlock the universal.
Yes.
Amen.